While some people around him seem determined to slow progress and hold others back, 50 Cent has always taken a different approach. Driven, focused, and relentless, he turns pressure into momentum while bringing others up with him, showing that real power isn't about preventing someone else's success. It's about creating opportunities for everyone around you. I mean, Jay-Z's on a whole another level. You know he is. But what I like about 50 is that he's on a whole another level too, and he's still approachable. You still get to meet him and connect with him. You have to remember the people who helped make you. I'm not saying I don't respect Jay-Z, I do. I respected 50. I used to respect Diddy too, before everything that came out. But growing up in New York, those were the guys. They had the money, the influence, everything. Now, the tension appears to be rising as Beyoncé is rumored to be facing a major crossroads after 50 Cent announced plans for a follow-up documentary examining long-discussed power dynamics within the music industry. Long-standing alliances and behind-the-scenes relationships are being viewed through a different lens, and attention is beginning to shift toward people who once seemed beyond scrutiny. As public opinion continues to evolve, more questions are emerging. Will Beyoncé redefine her path, distance herself from the controversy, or step back in an effort to protect her legacy? With the industry confronting what many see as a long-overdue reckoning, even old conversations are resurfacing. They don't give you the trophies. I got the checks. Jay got the trophies. That's because he signed that contract. What contract? The one with Beyoncé. If you don't sign it, you don't get the trophy. If Beyoncé ever came after you once, fifth. She did. She did worse. She jumped off the ledge. I didn't even know what to do. Laughter. So Beyoncé jumped down. We were in Vegas. I'm talking to Jay, and all of a sudden she jumps over. I'm thinking, wait, what is she doing? This is between me and Jay. It has nothing to do with you. But as soon as I started talking to Jay, she came right over. I thought, oh, they're about to jump me. You were lucky Solange wasn't there. Laughter. She just came over looking ready. I honestly thought something was about to happen. I didn't know how to respond because you're still Beyoncé. Jay-Z reportedly understood that attention could eventually turn toward him, but few expected the amount of material that has been hinted at following the recent documentary series. Its release sent shockwaves throughout the industry, especially after claims that much more footage exists and additional projects are already being developed. According to public statements, 50 Cent has suggested that the archive of behind-the-scenes material is extensive, fueling speculation, concern, and private conversations among some of hip-hop's most influential figures. Whether all of that content is ever released remains uncertain, but one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The era of keeping these stories behind closed doors may be coming to an end. 50 Cent confirmed that he has more dirt on Diddy that didn't even make it into the 4 episodes of the Netflix documentary. And with 50, you never really know what else he has. He was talking about footage from the videographer who recorded Diddy before he went to jail. On top of that, he said more people came forward with allegations that weren't included in the documentary, and he hinted that he's planning to release everything on YouTube. Speaking on The Sherry Show, 50 was asked whether viewers had already seen everything. That personal footage shocked a lot of people, Sherry said. I know the way you operate. That can't be everything. Is there more that hasn't been shown? Yeah, 50 replied. There was stuff that couldn't make it because there were only 4 episodes. When Sherry asked if that meant there would be a second Netflix documentary, 50 simply responded that he'd put it on YouTube instead. He repeated that point several times during the interview, clearly suggesting that YouTube is where any additional material would appear. Some observers believe that decision could be related to legal concerns, with the theory being that Netflix may not have been willing to include certain claims because of potential liability. Others point out that the series was also limited to 4 episodes, forcing producers to leave material on the cutting room floor. Sherry also asked whether new information had surfaced after the documentary was released. Yeah, 50 answered. People start feeling more comfortable when they see others telling their truth. For years, the rivalry between 50 Cent and Jay-Z has shaped countless public conversations, defined by their very different approaches to influence and leadership. While 50 repeatedly rebuilt himself after setbacks, returning stronger each, tensions between the two continued to simmer beneath the surface. Today, as discussions around power and influence evolve, the focus is becoming less about personal competition and more about legacy. To many observers, the contrast has always been clear. One philosophy is associated with control and exclusivity, while the other emphasizes resilience, growth, and helping others succeed. I mean, Jay-Z's on another level. But what I like about 50 is that he's still approachable. You can meet him. You can talk to him. You have to remember the people who helped make you. I respect Jay-Z. I respected Diddy too before everything happened. Those guys were New York. They had the money and the influence. When was the last time you even saw Jay? People always say things about him, but you rarely see him. You've got to remember, Jay didn't want 50 at the Super Bowl. Really? Yeah. Eminem pushed for him. He basically said he wasn't performing unless 50 was there. I heard that. I didn't know Jay was trying to stop me. Others suggested that competition may have played a role. You've got to remember, 50 was always competition for Jay. They also pointed to the commercial success of G-Unit alongside Eminem and Dr. Dre. Nobody has outsold us. Nobody has had the impact we had. Rumors have circulated for years about influential circles operating behind the scenes, where far more happens than the public ever sees. But what continues to drive discussion isn't simply the rumors themselves, it's the silence surrounding power. Stories involving private gatherings, blurred boundaries, and unspoken awareness have prompted broader questions about accountability and influence at the highest levels of the industry. Whether motivated by loyalty, caution, or self-preservation, some figures remained close while controversies unfolded elsewhere. As public scrutiny grows, the conversation is shifting away from sensational claims and toward larger questions about how influence, silence, and responsibility intersect when fame obscures accountability. During one interview, the discussion turned toward whether the Carters would respond publicly. Do you think they'll say anything? Beyoncé is losing followers every day, and she still hasn't said anything. She's acting like life is normal. Is it her place to say something? I don't think so. The guest then made additional allegations and personal opinions about individuals involved. Those remarks remain unproven and should be understood as claims rather than established facts. What continues to concern many observers, however, is the broader conversation about power, influence, and the environments young artists enter when guided by powerful industry figures. Long-standing rumors and secondhand accounts have fueled debate over whether those environments have sometimes normalized questionable behavior. As these conversations resurface, attention is increasingly shifting from individuals to the larger system itself, one that critics argue has too often prioritized success and protection over accountability. I've been around the industry a long time, one speaker said. I remember when Jay first started dating Beyoncé. He went on to discuss their reported ages at the time, while also acknowledging uncertainty surrounding publicly reported dates. For many people, the larger issue is how young artists entered environments shaped by extraordinary influence and limited oversight. High-profile names have become part of that discussion, not necessarily as direct targets, but as examples within a broader conversation about how the industry has historically handled emerging talent. As scrutiny intensifies, concern appears to be growing among industry insiders, not simply because of rumors, but because greater transparency could encourage others to come forward with their own experiences. Jaguar Wright has long spoken publicly about Jay-Z, and after recent legal developments involving him, she was asked whether seeing those conversations become more mainstream brought any sense of validation. It's encouraging, she replied. I mentioned on Piers Morgan that I had 3 alleged victims connected to the Carters who were ready to come forward. Maybe this gives them more confidence. She also suggested that many people behind the scenes already knew who she believed was being referenced before certain allegations became public. When asked about Beyoncé directly, Wright responded carefully. I hope not. But she was around. She's got enough on her plate. I'm not going to pile on her. What I will say is that she knows who her husband is. Gene later described both Jay-Z and Diddy as men who understood power, influence, and leverage long before the public paid attention. In his view, however, they operated very differently. One embraced visibility, remaining outspoken and constantly in the spotlight. The other relied more heavily on discretion, private relationships, and carefully cultivated networks. By avoiding unnecessary attention while building institutional influence, Gene argued, Jay positioned himself in spaces where authority could be exercised quietly rather than publicly. Gene also recalled hearing that Diddy once tried to encourage Ja Rule to target Jay-Z during the early 2000s. Did Diddy always say negative things about Jay around you? Yeah, back when he wanted Ja Rule to go after him. Why? I couldn't tell you. Maybe it was because Biggie had died. I don't know. Gene speculated that keeping others in conflict may have benefited Diddy strategically. According to Gene, Jay-Z's approach has always been different. While Diddy expanded through visibility and constant public presence, Jay built influence by limiting access, maintaining distance, and choosing his moments carefully. When asked about statements from Jay-Z's legal team suggesting that he and Diddy were never particularly close, Gene disagreed. They were close enough, he said, before sharing personal anecdotes intended to illustrate that relationship. Whether those stories accurately reflect the nature of their friendship remains open to interpretation, but they continue to fuel discussion as past relationships receive renewed attention. If there was one strategic mistake in Jay-Z's otherwise calculated rise, some commentators argue it may have been maintaining close ties with the wrong people. Relationships that once appeared mutually beneficial are now being reconsidered under a much more critical spotlight. They got tighter, one speaker joked. Laughter. When Jay signed the biggest contract of his life, the marriage contract with Beyoncé, the trophies started rolling in. Laughter. He had won Grammy before. Then they just kept coming. Another person suggested that marriage changed how Jay was perceived, saying he was increasingly viewed as a businessman and family man rather than simply a rapper. Whether or not that interpretation is accurate, discussions like these continue to reflect changing public perceptions. Some commentators argue that placing trust in the wrong allies can become an expensive mistake when public scrutiny intensifies. Relationships built on mutual benefit can quickly become liabilities, especially when reputations are at stake. Attention also turned toward Diddy's legal team after reports involving behind-the-scenes recordings. One legal analyst argued that Diddy had undermined his own defense by secretly recording conversations with attorney Mark Agnifilo while documenting his life. According to the analyst, Agnifilo believed those conversations were private and candid, making the existence of recordings especially significant. Reports also suggest attempts have been made to stop an upcoming documentary, with questions raised about how certain footage was obtained. Supporters of the project, however, maintained that the material came from a legitimate production that ultimately collapsed because of disputes over ownership and payment. According to one speaker, disagreements over unpaid invoices allowed footage to change hands. He liked hiring young videographers because they wanted the opportunity. But if he didn't honor the contract, then that footage could end up belonging to someone else. The speaker claimed that business disputes, not loyalty, ultimately determined where the recordings ended up. Everybody isn't loyal forever. Speculation continues to grow that the documentary could mark a major turning point, potentially leading to significant personal and professional changes behind the scenes. For years, Beyoncé has maintained one of the strongest brands in entertainment, navigating challenges while preserving a carefully managed public image. But some commentators believe this moment feels different, not because of scandal itself, but because of what it could mean for her long-term legacy. Public debate has intensified over Beyoncé and Jay-Z's relationship, with critics revisiting long-standing discussions about influence, trust, and power within the partnership. Industry observers also note that Jay-Z is facing a level of public scrutiny unlike anything seen throughout much of his career. One commentator reflected on how unusual that shift appears. "I've never seen him looked at this way before. For 25 years it seemed like he could do no wrong." He also questioned why the change was happening now, noting that Jay had rarely been placed in a position where he needed to publicly explain himself. Asked about Jay's public statement, the speaker said he believed silence was becoming increasingly damaging. If he's innocent, people should be able to ask him questions and hear directly from him instead of only hearing from lawyers. Attention increased again after 50 Cent shared an Instagram video teasing the next phase of his documentary project, with many believing the focus could now shift toward Jay-Z. Some commentators suggest Beyoncé may now face a strategic decision. In the past, silence and loyalty helped preserve stability. But if renewed attention begins affecting her own legacy, protecting her long-term future could eventually become the priority. One online commentator claimed that additional footage obtained from Diddy's former videographer could contain evidence relating to witness tampering and obstruction of justice. Those allegations remain unverified. The speaker specifically referenced an individual named Neil, alleging that unseen footage could implicate others connected to Diddy's organization. Separately, Diddy's former chef, Jordan Atkinson, publicly accused former assistant Neil Dominique of informing Diddy that she had been contacted by federal investigators. She also alleged that he shared information about multiple individuals involved in the case. Those claims have not been proven in court. Gene said what surprised him most was not the allegations themselves, but the backlash directed toward 50 Cent. Instead of focusing on the conduct being discussed, he argued, critics shifted attention toward questioning 50's motives. In Gene's view, that response reflected a broader cultural pattern of challenging the messenger rather than confronting the underlying issues. They're trying to make it about jealousy over a woman, Gene said. A man who can be with anyone isn't worried about that. It's much bigger than that. The question now is whether Beyoncé chooses to distance herself in order to protect everything she has built, or whether she stands beside Jay-Z as scrutiny continues to intensify. And if 50 Cent truly possesses the amount of material he has suggested, the conversation could expand far beyond what many currently expect. The uncertainty continues to grow, the stakes remain high, and the story is still unfolding. If you found this discussion interesting, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.